It's been 6 months. I'm here today to talk about the last and final part of the Mafia's history. Life has changed ever since they left and ever since we divided into small little groups. Mafia's was once top of the world, on top of every single server that it stomped on, and now it's faded. Ex-members are now part of something new and something more vast and more bigger than what Mafias used to be. I for once have moved on, but I think it's time for me to finish off what I started by making you this video. And hopefully once I make this video and once I finish it, we can now forget about the past and move on to the future. A future more vast than what it was supposed to be. But thankfully it happened. And here I am talking to you guys about the history of Mafias. So we last left off on Iron Edge, which is a faction that was made during Generation 1, led by a user by the name of Ivan Dat Boy. Ivan Dat Boy is known for some very, let's just say some interesting topics. It's because of Ivan Dat Boy, Mafia's Generation 1 disbanded. I, as the leader, young on past, entrusted him to become a Mafia's member. He is the reason why we disbanded. He is the reason why everything shut down, and he is the reason why we got fucked over, and he is the reason why none of us are friends no more. Ivan Dat Boy was entrusted into the faction. I made a deal with him. I said that if he joins us and we take over Iron Edge, he'll become Mafia's leader and he'll be protected. But he agreed, and it didn't really work out as we planned. Soon after he joined, we were getting ready to raid one of the biggest factions on the server, which was Sad Boys. A member by the name of Zeskod. He found one of their bases and he set a home over there. What ended up happening was your man Jeff, a former leader of Demon Blood, he said to Bree in chat, saying that, Bree, why did you unclaim your base, or why did you disband Sad Boys? And luckily all of us in the faction was on, and we decided, hey, this is our chance. Let's fucking do this, right? And we went over to Bree's base and we destroyed it. Every single piece of it. We destroyed everything. We destroyed all of it to the point where there was nothing left. We took everything they had, and we sacrificed a lot of members and a lot of gear, but it was well worth it because they used to torment us while we were on the server, being called different names, being called different shit. We had to do something, so we ended up doing it. Soon after that raid, Ivan Dat Boy decided he was gonna build one of the biggest melon farms the server has ever seen, alongside with Fluffy, which Fluffy Fireboy was one of my right hand men, and he was to Ricky as well. Together they formed one of the biggest farms on the server, almost the biggest, went all the way up to Sky Limit, which is what they planned, but they never succeeded. I was invited to it to take a look at it, and Ivan did not like the fact that I was there. The plan was between him and Fluffy that only they would know where it is, and that's it. But Fluffy, as a good friend of mine, teleported me there and allowed me to view this monstrosity of a farm. I soon realized that this farm is a big income to the faction. We should use it. And I allowed some of the members to come and take a look at it and farm from it. Ivan got very disappointed by this and ended up treating us like shit. And me and Lilas, which is someone who joined later in the faction, decided to build a bigger farm right next to his. And that's when the farm wars began between mafias. It was like a civil war, but it was a war in between the faction members. Me and Lila started making the melon farm, and it was being made by netherrack and other types of materials that was darker than what Ivan was thinking of. Ivan was building his out of quartz and sea lanterns and all different kinds of light colors, and it was just a big commotion, and it was a big just it was interesting. After we built the farms and all this happened, Ivan had enough. He couldn't take it no more, and he decided that he was gonna incite mafias. By doing that, he teleported every single person into each and every base that Mafia had that he had access to. From there, all the members of Mafias was defending their bases. We lost Vault 1 and 2 in a matter of seconds, minutes, maybe even 1 hour. We lost 420. We lost Vault 5 and 4. And last but not least, we lost the farm. Everything was destroyed. We had nothing left. The person who was behind all this was not just Ivan. It was also Venom the Terror. And it was other people. And we realized that also Kazi was behind most of it. Because soon after the fall of Generation 1, he decided to join Buzzing Brush 661 in his faction called Fortnite. And the faction had a big argument after the raid. We didn't know what to do. We didn't want to build anything else because that was progress that we made on the server. Zestgod made an announcement saying that he should become the leader, but I, as the former leader during that time, well, I was an officer, but when Ricky was not around, I took over. But I, as a former leader, knew if I gave the faction to the wrong hands, the name would not have value no more. Because right now, everyone in the server hates us, and there was no point in giving it up. So I told Ricky to disband the faction and then remake it to kick everybody. Everyone was kicked out. Lilas, Awesomeness, Abden, Zestgod, Kazi, me, and Fluffy Fireboy. We all were kicked. And we suffered for the past couple days, and I told Ricky we gotta forget about this faction, but Ricky insisted in making a new one with the same name. I was overwhelmed by this, and I agreed, and I said yes. I guess this is the right thing to do, I guess. Soon after we disbanded Mafia's Gen 1, me and Ricky decided it would be best to make another faction with the same name and start a new generation. A new a new faction with new members and just everything brand new. Everything comes to what it seems, but sometimes you just gotta live with what happens in life. Me and Ricky started Mafia's Generation 2 in December of 2020. No, January of 2020. Our first member that we invited was Shadow, the one Shadow. And she was found on ECPE. I ran into her when I was playing Skyblock on that server, and I asked if she would like to join us on our quest to become one of the greatest factions to ever live. She agreed and she joined, and still till this very day I still talk to her. Sometimes, not often. The next person that I invited was Irish Skillet. He wasn't all that great, but he was kinda part of the faction. Then the next person who joined was Gante. Gante was one of the more of PvP type person. He built one of the biggest melon farms that Mafia's ever had. That was complete, called the Melon Tower, and it got destroyed later. And I'm going to explain that later in this video, hopefully, if I get to it. Next couple people don't really matter. There was the Shadow Claw, then there was Melvin, and there was a couple other people that I forgot of. So we created Generation 2. During the time me and Ricky were creating Generation 2, the Generation 1 X members were getting pissed off, and they created a new faction called the Real Mafias, because they thought that since they were kicked, they were still part of Mafias. So for 3 months straight, we were fighting on every single server that was a faction server, trying to get the name so they wouldn't take what belongs to us. We fought and we fought, and we finally had him. Generation 1 was no more, and they all split. Zescod quit and was never saw again. Kazi stayed with Fortnite and just kept taunting us and kept on trying to fight us and do what he could, but he failed. Well, he won at the end because he joined something more vast than Mafias. He joined Stride, and I'm going to get into that later. Awesomeness left, and he went to Hypixel. Abden was never seen again, and all that was left was me, Ricky, Fluffy, and Shadow, Gante, and Irish Skillet, and a couple other members. We did our best to become something that we wanted to be, and we succeeded. Then, from Lucky Factions, we moved into the Anarchy stages. The vast and very scary, I can't explain how terrifying it was. We moved into 9B9T for about 2 months and dominated some of it, not all of it. Generation 2 of Mafias switched over to 9B9T, a former Anarchy server in the Java Edition version of Minecraft. Us, as Bedrock Edition players, we didn't know anything about Java. I was on Windows 10 and Pocket Edition, and the rest of the people were on Pocket Edition. Ricky, on the other hand, had some experience on Java, so we thought it was a good thing for us to move on and go into something far more newer and more complex than what we're used to. We soon found 9B9T, which we were actually introduced to by Little Track. Little Track was a good friend of Ricky's for a long time, and they were together back in the Stride days, way before my time when I met Ricky. Soon, me and Little Track started Old Zealand, which was a base somewhere on 9B9T. I cannot disclose the information of the cords to that server. Not server. The cords to the base. When we created Old Zealand, we made sure that we had enough rooms and enough base materials for new players to join, because our initial plan was we were going to transfer everybody from Lucky Factions, who was able to play on Java, into Old Zealand onto 9B9T. Stepping into the Anarchy world was a very big step for Mafias, and it was a good one too, because a lot of us learned a lot from it. Little Track told me about this player on 9B9T by the name of Maggot. Maggot was a former leader of a group called Spawn Goons, and their initial plan and their initial description of the group is a group that destroys Spawn as much as they can. In other words, they didn't allow anybody to leave Spawn. The faction was big, massive. There was over 200 players in that group, and Maggot was the leader. Him and some other groups on the server were trying to fight a war. Spawn Goons, Imperials, and Team No Spawn. But there was really no point in fighting, because at the end of the day, they all lost everything, including Maggot. Maggot got doxxed later that year, the year of 2020, later that summer. And eventually, he left 9B9T.